All right. Well, welcome in everybody. Welcome to our community conversation regarding the berm and the pedestrian promenade. I will have Dorley and Roland do a little introduction here, and then we'll get started and hear some public comments. You're muted there, Dorley.
Hi, are you here, Roland?
Roland is on.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming. This is an effort from the Birch Bay Chamber with Public Works to take a look at our wonderful new berm and promenade and spend some time deciding the uses for the facility. And this is our first meeting. We'll try to have a few more meetings and maybe an evening meeting. It would be wonderful if we could have a meeting later in the summer where we can all be face to face, and we'll try to make that happen. And I want to thank Roland for walking along beside us on this. It's important that we have the county working with us, because when we come to a decision as to how this pathway should be used, we'll come eventually to an ordinance, which we will hopefully draw up with Roland's help. And then it's the county council process, which takes a few months. And Roland, I'm going to give it to you from here.
Okay, well, once the task force makes a recommendation to the chamber, and the chamber puts forth what your recommendation will be, Public Works will draft a ordinance to discuss, or actually to establish the uses for the walkway, for the promenade, whether it's going to be pedestrian only or pedestrian bicycle trail or what have you. But in the end, we want to make sure that the appropriate signs are up, and the appropriate enforcement tools will be available to the sheriff's office, so that we can make sure that it is a safe place to move, whether it's with bicycles or without. But really would just like to put it known to everyone what the expectations are, and that way we can utilize the promenade in such a way that the community wants. As far as the county engineer and the director of Public Works, and I won't speak for the sheriff, Deputy Jones is here to speak for that. But as long as it's safe, whatever the community would like is really where Public Works is. So we're really looking forward to having a recommendation by the community.
Great. Thank you, Roland. I would like to have are the three members of the task force from the residents? I think they're present. Would you guys, Wendy, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Wendy White. I live on Birch Bay Drive.
And Mary Lou?
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Jones.
And Mary Lou, give us a little bit of your background.
Okay, I worked for County Parks for 30 years and retired. And we've had a condo out at Jacob's Landing for 20 some years, but we live in downtown Nooksack. But I'm definitely interested in what goes on at the, because we're out at Birch Bay all the time. So that's kind of me.
Thank you. Wendy, give us your background a little bit.
Oh, I was a teacher in Bellingham School District. I've retired now. I've lived in Birch Bay for over 20 years. So I am a fixture.
What portion of Birch Bay do you live in?
Down by the sea shop.
Okay, great.
Out on the spit there.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Mary Lou, I think that you represent, probably about 40% of people who love and enjoy Birch Bay with a second home and come back and forth. And you've spent, what'd you say, 22 years here?
Yeah,
in that
25,
way.
I think.
25, great.
Yeah.
I'm one of those that did the same thing for many years. Okay, and we have one other from our task force, gentleman. Is it Frank? Is it
Nope,
Did-
Pat Anderson's on the call.
Oh, Pat, thank you. Pat?
Okay, well, my name's Pat Anderson. We've owned our house in Birch Bay since 1989, but we've lived here full-time only since the end of 2013. My background is I was the city attorney of Snoqualmie for 32 years, heavily involved in their development of parks and recreation facilities and so on. That's and I love the berm.
Oh, good for you. Are you out there walking or riding your bike?
I do. I walk my dog on it as often as I can. I don't ride on it. In fact, I'm a little bit afraid of adult riders on the berm.
Well, you must not have gone by me because I'm going on my granny bike and I'm real slow.
Well, that's fine. As long as there's no conflict, you know, a large group going fast, that's a conflict.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I think we can, shall we do this by raising hands?
Yeah,
And-
so there is, if you click on the reactions button, there's a button there where you can raise your hand. I think that's probably the best way. And then I'll just go ahead and call on whoever's hand is raised if you'd like to make a comment or share an idea.
I don't seem to have such a button.
Okay, we can use our actual hands. You can raise your real hand too. I'll pay attention.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. Pat, did you want to start us off?
Only if nobody else wants to start off.
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, you know, in terms of, you know, Warren had mentioned bicycles, but actually you should put scooters in with that group or skateboards. Scooters are nowadays getting very fast. They will get faster. So yeah, we need to be able to figure out things for handling all those. I'll shut up now. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, I'll just put a little comment in with Pat on scooters. I spent a lot of time in San Diego on the boardwalk, and they finally had to ban scooters because there were so many bad accidents with people riding them on the boardwalk. So they can be dangerous.
Go ahead, Karen. You'll have to unmute yourself there. You're still muted there.
Yeah, I know. Here I am. So I'm a resident of Birch Bay. I'm a little bit confused as to why we would have scooters and bicycles on the berm when we have a bicycle road there's already a bicycle path on the road. So why would they be allowed on the berm? And
Go
that
ahead.
includes scooters, because I mean, they're just too fast for the berm. You've got people walking their dogs, you've got people walking their little kids. And some of the bicyclists and scooter, you know, they figure, well, you just get out of the way, and I'm sorry, it's just not appropriate.
Go ahead, Roland. You had your hand up first.
Yeah, I just want to address and not really specifically to Ms. Bell's point, but to let people know there is an improved shoulder on Birch Bay Drive, but it is not a bike lane.
Oh,
People can walk on the shoulder along with the bikes, and so there's not a specific bike lane. There's not enough room to put in a specific bike lane as far as the required width and that sort of thing. In addition, that is a travel lane, and so the only thing that can be in the bike lane is a bike. And so because of that, Public Works has maintained an improved shoulder. That doesn't change how it's the actual action. I just wanted to make sure to clarify so people understand. I see that on the Nextdoor and on Facebook and stuff where people are talking about, well, the bikes can just go in the bike lane, and it's not actually a specific bike lane. So just wanted to clarify that.
Go ahead, Pat.
Two comments. I agree totally with Roland. There's not enough room for a true bike lane. on the shoulder of the road. There are standards for bike lanes, and the bike folks will tell you what they are, but there's not enough right of way for a bike lane. The second thing I wanted to say about scooters is there's scooters and then there's scooters. They're mobility scooters that handicapped people use that should be allowed to be on there. But the question of other kinds of scooters, that's more an open question to me.
Karen, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, Pat, that's true. I was not talking about the handicapped scooters because they have their own rights. They are treated as a pedestrian or special needs. So I wasn't referring to that. But am I confused then? I thought that shoulder, so to speak, was going to be made a bike lane. And what size are we talking about, or what width are we talking about that would qualify it as a bike lane on the road?
Roland Middleton again of Public Works. I don't know, I don't have it in front of me and I don't have the code, but to widen it out to include a bike lane, we needed to add 2 or 3 feet of pavement on both sides. And that would require a significant amount of stormwater treatment,
Right.
which
Okay.
would have been another few $1 million just in stormwater treatment. So to keep the cost, and the cost was still over $15 million for the berm. So to keep it under at least that, Public Works decided to leave it as an improved shoulder. Now the hope was, and I'll tell you what the hope was, is that with the people having such a beautiful place to walk, really the only people using the improved shoulder would be the bicyclist. So again, our intention was to build a sidewalk, as it were, a 4 foot wide, 4.5 foot wide sidewalk. But since we had the opportunity to make it much larger, and again, we made it larger not to include bicyclists, but made it larger to just have an improved walkway. But when it came down to, well, we want the county engineer to put up signs that say bicycles are not allowed, we don't really have that authority. So that's why we're here today, is to set up an ordinance so that the sheriff knows exactly what to enforce, and there's no having to do creative interpretation. It's very obvious what it is.
Okay, thank you, Roland.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Daniel. I apologize. I was about 4 minutes late coming in, so if all of these questions have been answered, I apologize. I submitted an input, to one of your forms, and I don't know whether that's been reviewed or considered, but the gist of my suggestion was that to address that particular concern, that you just simply set a reasonable diameter on the wheels for bicycles, and that means that a kid's going to be on a 16 or 18-inch wheel, and no one going at high speed and jeopardizing life and limb is going to be on a bike that small. But my grandson was on there this morning on a walk, and his bike would have been unchallenged, and no one, at least until he tipped over and tore the corner off his elbow. But is there something like that could be simple enough to be useful?
Mary Lou?
Well, the only thing I say, you have to have a place for the little kids on a bicycle because they're not safe on that road. And I don't think they can hurt anyone, children on little bicycles. So because you just can't have them on that road, there's no room. So that's just my opinion. I mean, I worry about, like, you don't want those great big electric bikes that grown-ups use, and they're becoming more and more popular. They go real fast. I think the city just made an ordinance this week that you can't go over 15 miles an hour. Now, a real public place like Taylor, where there's a lot of walkers, they lowered it to 5 miles per hour for a bike because it's just too dangerous with all the walkers over there on Taylor. But the rest of the parks, like Whatcom Falls Park, I guess you can go 15 miles an hour.
Go ahead, Pat, and then we'll have Connie.
Just a point of reference that 2 or 3 weeks ago, my wife was walking and a large group of mixed adults and children on bikes, large and small, about 20 of them came right at her and she basically had to get out of the way. She had to yield to the bikes. That doesn't seem right to me that a pedestrian has to yield to a group of bicycles, but again, that's something for a recommendation. Yeah, she was walking her dog when it happened. So just a point of information.
Okay, Connie, go ahead.
Well, okay, first of all, I think a speed limit is the way to go. So like Mary Lou was saying, I think a 5 mile an hour, because there's, when my mom used to ride her trike, or like Dorley's trike, I think that could be able to be on there nice and slow. I don't like the idea of a mob of bikers coming at you, but that's just rude. That's not really an ordinance thing. That's just not nice. So I don't think you can make a rule like that. I don't know about bike size. But yeah, I want my grandkids to be able to ride their little bikes on there. And I hope that doesn't get made a law that they can't.
Okay, Danielle stepped away for a minute. I'm Sasha, by the way, the event coordinator at the chamber. So I'm gonna take over her duties. Dorlee, looks like you have your hand up and you're muted.
Thank you. The size wheels, Brian, I'm not sure that's going to work because I got a new little e-bike and my e-bike has really small wheels. It's one of those that you can fold up and throw in your car. So, and my e-bike will go about 18 miles an hour. Now, I'm not going 18 miles an hour on my e-bike. As a matter of fact, it scares me at 8 miles an hour. But the wheel size, if you look around, you know, there's all kinds of new bicycles out there now, and the configuration of wheel size is not like the old 22, 24, 26 that we knew. The other thing about a mob riding on the berm, we used to ride in our neighborhood. We'd have about 15 or 16 when we'd all get together and take a nice bike ride in Birch Bay, kids and all, parents and all. And, you know, there is a thing about single file, and in your interurban trails, the rules are, you know, there are some rules and some guidelines, and staying to the right and riding in a line is the proper way to ride, even on the shoulder of the road, of course, or possibly on a pathway. So it's going to, whatever we decide, it's going to take some education, and staying to the right and being single file. Even walkers, when it's busy, I've noticed, I've been riding now, trying to ride every night to just get a feeling. And you know what? Walkers will ride, or walkers are oftentimes a mob. And I have had to say 3 or 4 times, you know, behind you, passing on the left, and they're busy having fun talking and all. I think it's going to be that we're going to learn to use this pathway with some awareness, even walkers. And so that's my 2 cents. It's going to be everybody learning. And I hope this summer can be a summer of us sort of learning and being gracious to one another. If you're on a bicycle, you don't go sailing by somebody who's walking. There was a group of older women, and I kept saying left, and they couldn't figure out which way to move. I mean, you know, when they don't really realize you're there and all, they were just sort of scattered about, you know, where do we go now? And so that's awareness on both sides. With, if we choose to have bikes and walkers, we'll all be learning, and hopefully we won't have any terrific accidents if we decide to go that direction.
I know, Derek, you had something.
Yeah.
Chime in with?
Yeah, I think too, when we talk about laws and what we were recommending to the council, that we need to think about too how the sheriff's office can enforce those. So, you know, while a wheel size is a good idea, will a deputy go out there with a tape measure and measure wheels to enforce something? You know, I mean, we do that with tint on the car, so maybe we will, but it's just something that we probably need to talk about as well. Speed limits are a good idea. However, it's more a recommendation because again, us sitting out there with a speed measuring device will be difficult. So hopefully going forward, we can talk about, what will it look like the sheriff's office enforcing it, whether it's just education or actually citing people.
Thanks, Derek. Pat?
Yeah, keep it simple. And Dora Lee mentioned about bikers to the right, walkers to the left. That might help. Because basically when you're walking, you should be facing traffic. Who knows what?
Except there's no dividing line, so.
No dividing line.
And then
So
Brian,
there's
you
no
have
left
something too?
Yeah, I just, to Dora Lee's comment about the e-bike, to me, anything that's powered, other than an assisted wheelchair, shouldn't be on the berm anyways. I don't care what the diameter of the wheels are.
I didn't hear quite what you just said, Brian.
Oh, Pat, I was just saying that I don't care what the diameter of Dora Lee's e-bike wheels are. If it's powered, it shouldn't be on the berm anyways. The only exception being a powered wheelchair, like a.
I agree. I agree.
And then Karen. Oh, you're muted again there, Karen.
I just kind of wanted to move on. I think we've kind of determined that at this point bikes are allowed, and we have to figure out down the road how to go about enforcing it, what speeds. And I think it's going to end up boiling down to simple courtesy. And hopefully we have enough residents out there to say to people, hey, you always walk on the right-hand side, and anybody that passes, just like when you're driving, you go on the left.
Mhm.
And so I think it's going to end up to a simple courtesy. My question has to off of that topic has to do with the fencing and the location of walkways from the road to the beach. If you look from Bay Breeze all the way to just past Golden Tides is all fenced, and that's where the bulk of our people are. So what are people doing? They're going under the fence, or they're taking it off one of the rods to go across the grass. And I'm a little bit confused as to where all that traffic is. There is no walkway to the beach. You have to go down to Bay Breeze or all the way to the other side of Golden Tides. From Golden Tides all the way to one of the apartment blocks down there is all open. You've got the park, you've got the Birch Bay Library, you've got that home park on the other side there. All that's open with a number of walkways every, 7,500 feet. I'm a little bit confused as to why they get so many walkways with at this point, a lower population than all the businesses and residents that are on that strip between Bay Breeze and the other side of Golden Tides.
Roland, you might be the best one to answer that. And then Pat, I see your hand up. So after Roland goes, I'll have you.
Just scratching my head.
Okay.
Yeah. So the fence will go away as soon as our plant specialist has said that the plants have reached a certain level of maturity. That fence is just there to protect the plantings. And the part where the fence is the part that was trampled so badly right after the plantings. So the areas where people were being respectful of the plants and they weren't getting chewed up, we didn't put the orange fence on. We only put it where a significant percentage of the plants had to be replanted. And we didn't want to put it up there in the first place. But as much as we kept telling people to please stop walking on the little twigs, they still did. And so it was costing the taxpayers a significant amount of money having to replant it. So as soon as they get, and I unfortunately, the two engineers responsible for all that are on vacation. So I was trying to get that information before today's meeting so I can let you all know when we expect to pull that fence. But we're going to pull the fence as soon as we can. I don't know if it'll be done before the 4th of July, because quite frankly, I don't know if we have any staff to go out and pull it before the 4th of July, but that's something that we're going to look into. On the crossings were developed during the negotiations for the construction easements. They were specifically placed with each owner in conversation with the owner. Much of the berm is on private property. We have a construction easement to place the gravel and do the plantings. Much of it is not in right of way. So if someone wants to have a little path that goes from their property up over the berm, it's their property to do that. Any kind of, the bridges and some of that's being built, that needs to be done through a revocable encroachment permit because it's actually improvements being put in the right of way. But many of those things can be permitted. It's not a prohibition for someone to walk on their property. What a lot of people don't understand is the vast majority of the beach in Birch Bay is privately owned. And that includes in front of the Sandcastle, Jacob's Landing, all those condos own it. Mr. and Mrs. Boat own a significant section of the beach that they've donated to public use. So we have a construction easement, but not a full right of way. And that's what's going on with that. So I will let the chamber know. I'll send an email out to the chamber as soon as I have a date on that, and hopefully we can inform you by way of the website as well as our own social media for Public Works.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. I'm going to have to call you and Pat something different because I think we're getting confused. So go ahead.
Very good, Pat. No
I
problem.
know that. That's Pat Allison, my old partner from the Birch Bay Incorporation Committee in 1991.
Yes.
How about that? I really admire your red suspenders too. I need to get some red ones myself. But anyway,
I gotta hold things up somehow.
what I was going to say was we can't assume that all bicycles will be permitted. I thought I heard that statement. I think road bikes, adults on road bikes need to stay off the berm and stay in the road right of way, subject to the traffic laws like all bicyclists are. To me, the bicycle issue is about children and other things that are not adults on road bikes. I think we should actually, if we can come to some consensus on the fact that adults on road bikes should not be on the berm, that would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Do you mean, so like if I was riding my little beach cruiser, I'd need to go on the road, but my kids could be up on the berm?
No, a road bike is like a 10 or 15 speed.
Okay.
Yep,
Like
exactly.
Like a fast bike.
A road bike has got a sort of a understood definition among bicyclists.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well-
Roland and then Mr. Allison.
Yeah, a child on a bike walk with adults who are walking, I think is a line.
So my question is to Deputy Jones. Because on sidewalks, bicycles aren't allowed on sidewalks. But if my 4-year-old grandson is on his little push bike, I've gone right pat in downtown Bellingham, and downtown Bellingham bicycles are not allowed on sidewalks. But I've never had an officer ever say anything to my grandkids who are pedaling along on, as Mr. Bell would say, these little wheeled little push bikes that I probably couldn't get my foot on, let alone my body on. So is that just a discretionary that police officers are recognizing that no harm, no foul, and they're not telling me to have my 4-year-old grandson out in the travel way?
Yeah, it's definitely discretionary with those kind of things. I mean, bicycles are allowed on sidewalks except for certain areas. So for example, downtown, they have a specific ordinance called the Central Business District, which does not allow any wheeled instrument or motor vehicles down there. So bikes, skateboards, scooters, any of that kind of stuff. But as long as you're riding safely in Whatcom County, you can ride on any provided sidewalk.
Wow.
Go ahead, Connie. You're muted.
If you don't have volunteer or worker bees to take down the orange fence when it's decided that it can go down, I bet you could get some volunteers.
I just want to mention Kyle Anderson. I had a chat with him from Public Works this week. And they're going to come out and repair on July 2nd. They're going to be repairing the fence as far as keeping it up. So apparently Public Works is planning to leave it up for the 4th of July.
Yeah, that's good.
So some of the other concerns that people have brought to our attention are beach fires on the beach and the plantings in regards to beach fires. I know that they're allowed, but is there signage or anything regarding beach fires that we should consider?
Well, usually, if I might mention, usually beach fires, hopefully, are not up in the grass. They're down more where the high tide line is, which is helpful to help put your fire out. Birch Bay has been well known for a 3x3x3 fire, and nothing, you don't bring your old Davenports down and set them on fire. And we've had some of that in the past, but I believe actually in the area that I live in North Cottonwood or South Cottonwood, Whatcom County Parks has said no fires, and they've had signs up, no fires, but those just went up, probably 8 years ago, after there's been, 60 years of fires all along Birch Bay. Nobody paid any attention to those signs. And I was worried about them as a grandmother because my grandkids would come right by them while grandma and grandpa were building a fire. And that wasn't a wonderful thing to present to our grandchildren. We didn't pay any attention to the sign. But I don't know how you stop fires on the beach. I called the fire North Whatcom when those signs went up. And they said, we're not going to be enforcing any signs down on, no fires on Birch Bay. So I suppose that's something that we need to find out with the fire marshal, what is allowed, and then maybe signs 3x3x3 fires. And with 2 buckets, actually the fire marshal just sent something out for recreational fires. You have to have 2 buckets of water, and you have to have a rake, and you have to have all these kinds of things. And that serves for Birch Bay as well. I can't imagine people building fires up in the grass, but they probably will.
They
They
have,
will.
yeah.
Roland?
Derek, you've got your hands up, and Roland.
Yeah, I can't speak too much for the fire marshal, but there are some guidelines for the beach fires. Obviously, the fire department just put out that they're doing a stage 1 burn ban starting tomorrow. So that will go into effect. They'll still allow recreational fires, but like Dora Lee mentioned, it has to be within 3x3. It has to be a minimum of 16 inches high. It can only be, seasoned wood and things that are meant to be burned as a recreational fire. So all those, I can link those too in here, but that would definitely be something. I'm going to be meeting with the fire marshal later today, so I can try to find out some more information about that. However, I know that probably the sheriff's office would defer to them. If people calling in birch fire or beach fires, they would say, hey, let's call the fire department, let them deal with it.
Go ahead, Roland.
So if you look at the requirements that the fire marshal puts out, the first thing it says that you can have a recreational fire with the permission of the landowner. Whatcom County Public Works does not offer permission to anyone to have fires on public property. So that's why the signs are out on Cottonwood, and there'll be signs like that, I'm sure, when the park is developed, that there won't be beach fires allowed on the park part, where the Parks Department owns the beach. And that's because of liability reasons, and it's just not allowed. If you want to burn out in front of the sandcastle, you're supposed to have the permission of the sandcastle. If you're out in front of the Votes property, you need to have permission from the Votes. If you're out in front of Jacob's Landing, you need to have permission from the condominium associations at Jacob's Landing. they're the owners of the property, and that's really what determines whether you can have a fire there or not. Then, if you can have a fire there, let's say you're a member of Jacob's Landing and you want to have a little beach fire out there, then you have to follow those the program, and that is, it has a ring of rocks. Beach fires are a little different than regular recreational fires. They're still the same size, but you don't have to have the 16-inch high that you do in, say, some campground or something to that effect. But you do have to have 2 5-gallon buckets filled up with water in case you end up accidentally catching the beach grass on fire, which we're really hopeful that that doesn't happen, but we know it will. And one of the nice things about what was planted is it's not like regular tall dead grass. It's beach grass, and so it doesn't catch fire as much as in the beach strawberry and the other beach berry that is planted there is not as it's not as much fuel for a fire. So we're hopeful that won't be the case. But Whatcom County Public Works really doesn't have a specific opinion on that. That's up to the fire marshal and enforcement by the fire marshal's office through their authority of the sheriff's office. So that's kind of what I just really want to let people know. Again, I can't say it enough. It is a beautiful community asset, but it's not owned by the government. It's owned by private citizens. And that's one thing that I would really like people to be aware that fortunately, the whole that whole down area down in the, where the condos are, you know, they've been very gracious in allowing the public to go all over their property and enjoy this great asset.
Thank you. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, actually, this isn't by Jacob's Landing or the Sandcastle. The Bay Breeze is kind of the start of that. This is in front of the beach bar and the Cat Brewing, and there's a liquor store, and then there's CJ's Restaurant, and then the Visitor Center and Golden Tides. So I would think to encourage people not to walk on those grasses, there would be pathways, you know, in that area, so that people get used to walking down that pathway instead of walking across the whole berm area or the whole grassed area. But the way it is now, you kind of, it's all blocked off. And so that people are not going to get into a habit of following some kind of pathway through those grasses. So, you know, maybe that's something to be considered. Maybe you have to put in extra poles and open up an area or something, and to provide those walkways, because there are a lot of people, and, you know, you can disperse them by having them walk down to the beach on a designated path as opposed to through the fence.
Thank you. I'll discuss that with Kyle and Cody and Jim, and we'll go out and take a look at that certainly before the 4th.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else? Karen?
I'm sorry, I'm
That's
gonna
okay.
leave in a few minutes. I do have questions about plantings on the road side of the berm. You've got some areas where you've got your parking, and then you've got some planted areas. Are you planning on leaving all those weeds in there, or were you planning on taking out weeds? Or are you just considering all of them growth?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure what's there. I haven't actually been involved with that, but that's something I'll take a look at. Most likely it was planted with water absorbing plants. I think most of those areas are rain gardens of type. But if it's anything like my backyard, there's plenty of weeds that come in, you know, being dropped off by birds at all and the wind. So I'll ask when I ask him about the fence, I'll ask him about the maintenance of those planting areas as well.
They
Yeah.
have been weeding them.
Yes.
We've had people out there hand weeding the garden beds, and as well the swales. They've been taking out invasive species, I think, and leaving the ones that were planted intentionally. Dorley.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering, and I kind of, when I walk by, I say, oh, I've got these weeds here, and start digging them out. And then I think, well, geez, maybe I'm supposed to be leaving them here.
Yeah.
And so it would be good to know. I mean, I remember what plants were planted in there, and there's specific patterns to it. But when you've got these weeds coming up through the oyster shells that you've got in there, I think they're pretty much weeds unless they look similar to some of the other plantings, which they don't. But
Go ahead, Dorley.
Kathy Berg sent out a note that she was sent to her from Public Works that they are weeding. They have a crew that are weeding those beds. And, I'm wondering if in the days and years ahead, whether we could have groups of people like adopt one of them, like the ones that are down in front of Mariners Cove. Could Mariners Cove adopt those and keep them tidy? And because I'm telling you, Roland, you'd get a kick out of it. The weeds grew. It must be wonderful soil, because there's 3 foot high wonderful Birch Bay weeds in the oyster beds. I mean, they're just luscious. And so they're pretty easy to pull, because I've pulled some, because it makes me mad when they're destroying the beautiful ambiance of the oysters. But anyway, I think down the pike, I don't know, Danielle, have they weeded in front of the Vic? Because those beds look beautiful, and I didn't know, I thought, well, maybe Golden Tides had come out and done it, but it's been a crew, huh?
Yeah, it's been a crew. And then yesterday I had the gentleman who does the sheriff's work crew. He stopped in the visitor center and asked if those were being maintained and watered on a regular basis. And I have seen a watering truck out there.
He was by today.
Yeah, but he had offered to take that on at some point. We need it.
That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
so I have his contact information. I was gonna reach out to Roland and see who I needed to forward that on to.
Great, that'd be cool.
Go ahead, Pat Anderson, and then Karen will go back to you.
Okay, I'm entering this remark with trepidation, a little bit of trepidation here. I know that Roland's got to take his legal advice from the deputy prosecuting attorney that represents his department, but that was also my business as well. I obtained copies of those easements, and the statement that it's just a construction easement is not true. The easement grants the county the right to construct, operate, and maintain a pedestrian facility. It's considerably broader easement than has been represented as merely a construction easement. I'm just raising this. Maybe I'd be willing to talk with the deputy PA about it too, but that's not neither here nor there. I just think we've got to consider that every time we hear it's just a construction easement is a reason for not doing something.
Thank you, Pat.
Go ahead, Karen.
It just had to do with the weeding of the gardens and such. I mean, we have in place right now a volunteer to pick up litter and all of that kind of thing. I don't know how many people have signed up to maintain Birch Bay Drive, but maybe a person who signs up to take a particular strip would include the weeding of that particular area, picking up the litter and weeding that particular area. And I don't know how much of Birch Bay Drive is actually taken care of through volunteer labor.
Are you talking about the Adopt-A-Block group?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably 20 to 30 volunteers with the Adopt-A-Block group. They don't particularly have a set section that they take care of. It's more when people go out and feel the need or want to help out and clean, they do that, and then they report their hours that way. But I wouldn't say that it's like that's their space to specifically clean. That's not how they set the program up.
Okay, it's just like they have an adopt a highway system.
Yeah,
where,
it's just a little different. It's more like we're adopting somewhere in Birch Bay at some point to clean up. So it's not that's their one area. It makes it easier for people to commit to actually picking up the litter rather than, you know, having that as their spot. I think it works pretty good.
Also, you really can't seriously weed with one of those grabbers. You know, you're gonna have to bend over and have rubber gloves on and, you know, to do a good job. You know, for those people like myself sometimes who have trouble bending over, that would be quite a distinct responsibility.
Well, we're approaching an hour here. Do we have anything else? Oh, go ahead, Dorley.
I wanted to ask Roland and Pat Allisey, do you think it would be a good idea to have somebody from the bike ped advisory in Bellingham? I know they have 2 co-chairs. Have maybe the co-chairs visit our next chamber chat if they possibly can, and give us a kind of a background of their trails and all in Bellingham, and you know, talk about this trail a little bit and give us a little background experience to what they run into, and so we could sort of listen to their expertise.
I think that'd be a good idea, and I don't mind talking to them. And anything if you want to put an email together, I'll forward it to them. Yeah,
Do you think that'd be a good idea,
I
Roland?
think it's a good idea. Well, we spoke for you, Roland.
Yeah, well, actually, additional information is all good information. So it'll help the community have more conversation on where you'd like to go.
Okay, maybe the next meeting, if we can, we'll get some bike ped people here who work with all the trails in Bellingham to talk to us.
Go ahead, Connie.
I like that idea, Dorley, and they might have some good ideas of like some of the courtesy signage or
Yes.
information that they've done with education that we could
Yes,
use.
they have already sent us, and I won't give this out now because I didn't want to have this sort of impact us. I want to hear from our community because we are who we are. We're not Bellingham, but they have given us, I asked for a recommendation for an interurban trail, and they have sent us a recommendation. They sent it to Public Works and I have it. But I would prefer that before that recommendation is sent out, that we work on this ourselves and make it our own. But it would be nice, I think, to hear from them because they have a lot, they know a lot of things. I went to their bike ped meeting in April, and it kind of opened my eyes up as to what they see in Bellingham and what we might, you know, be facing here and what solves some of the issues that they've had. So.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, anybody else have anything else, or should we wrap it up for today and maybe plan what in August, Dorley, do you think?
Well, I think maybe we should have a meeting in July and try and get bike ped with us in July. And then in August, I would like to see if maybe we could get a meeting maybe at Birch Bay Bible Church and open it up to face-to-face. And so how about that for what we're looking at right now? And meanwhile, you all have homework. Get on your bike if you have one. Get on your feet and spend some time on the trail. I think it's been really good. One other thing I saw, Roland, you're going to love this. Down by the Bay Breeze, you know, where they have the metal bollards, are they? So that you know, it's where the parking is on the south side of Bay Breeze. I'm riding my bike, and somebody had taken the sign that they have there, no vehicles, you know, they had the A sign, and they'd thrown it on the beach. And there was a golf cart and I think 2 motorcycles all lined up in there, just perfectly parking. Because they can, the golf cart could get by the bollard and you could hardly turn the corner. I mean, it was a perfect little parking place for these 3 vehicles, except you couldn't get around the Bay Breeze on the walkway. I should have taken a picture. I had my granny bike and I squeezed through, but we're going to be running into all those kinds of things. And I think information out for our wonderful golf cart people is going to be good. You don't remove the signs where it says no vehicle and park your vehicle. So that, we're just going to be seeing all these kinds of things.
Should we do should the next meeting be an evening meeting, Dorley?
Yeah, on Zoom, evening meeting on Zoom. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
So
should we
can
plan
see
like a 6 o'clock?
How is everybody with 6 o'clock? Would you rather have it be 7 or 6?
Either
6 is fine.
That's in the martini time. I'm sorry.
Nobody said you can't have a martini on this meeting, Pat.
I think Roland and I are the only 2 that can't, right?
I can, I'm working. Me and Sasha, Derek and Roland.
Is it better earlier or later? 7 o'clock meeting? We've always done 7 o'clock meetings around here, but 6 o'clock seems like dinner. I can do it. I don't care, but we just want to get the best audience we can get.
That might be 7, it could be 7 would be a little better. I'm not conflicting with dinner hour for people.
I think the school district usually does between that like 6 and 7 o'clock time. And I think that works pretty good.
They do 6 to 7?
Well, like they usually start around 6:30 to 7, somewhere around there.
Okay, 6:30 or 7, Danielle.
Okay,
Are we going to pick a date now?
let me look at the calendar here.
Okay.
I think, can we do like the end of July 29th?
I'm happy with anything.
Let's plan July 29th at 6:30.
Okay. Meanwhile, everybody get out there, enjoy the walkway, keep your eyes open. Any ideas, bring ideas back next time around, and we'll try and get bike ped. Say the 29th, and we'll try and get the bike ped. And if we can't get the bike ped the 29th, we'll have to change the date.
I'll go ahead and email them today.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
Okay, well, everybody enjoy the beautiful sunshine. Stay cool, drink lots of water, and we will see you soon.
Good
Good.
meeting, Danielle. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.